How's it going, Critter Family? Hope you all are doing well. Today we are going over a video by H3H3, or H3 Productions, or the H3 Show. Today Ethan tried to tame a horse. It went horribly wrong, and police were called. Of course not. I mean, that's just his silly little title. But there's not a whole lot in here where he's actually working with a horse with this clip. But I just wanted to point out some of the things that he's doing to explain for non-horsey people who might have seen it, to explain what he's doing, why he's doing it, and why he may have been uh, uh, instructed to do so versus what I might do differently. So it looks like he's out here on a ranch. We got a big open space, just dry dirt for these horses to roam around in. And we're going to see how he catches these horses here. So I have it muted because he has some music playing in the background there up, and every now and then he has some music playing, so just to make sure it's not copywritten, we're just going to watch and see what he does. So he's running around here. He has a bag with a stick on it, and he's chasing these horses. And he's going to keep their feet moving. He's going to try and get them to... He's putting pressure on them. So this horse was able to find release in the corner here by the cameraman and in the shade because it's hot out. They don't want to run. Horses are fairly lazy creatures. They don't want to run if they don't have to. So if he wants to go catch them, he's going to have to go and put more pressure on this horse. This horse also found release of pressure. There's a horse over here that's just hanging out with the people. This is a smart horse. He says, I don't want to run. I don't want to get chased. I don't have to run if I stay by people. So what Ethan's going to have to do to get this horse out of the corner, we'll see here in a moment, is he's going to have to move to the left or the right side of this horse. So if this horse is here, you don't want to corner a horse and go directly down the middle. You want to give them an option to go right or left to get away from pressure, because your point is you're trying to move their feet. So this bag here on this stick is something that we would use to create something called pressure. It's just a pressure wave that makes the horse want to move, because the horse can find this to be intimidating, scary, or just pressure. It just makes them want to move their feet. So if you're trying to catch the horse, you might do this. You might try to run their butt out, and try to make them tired. You're going to keep them moving, make them tired, so that way you can catch them. Or you can slowly walk over, make sure that you cut off the horse by their drive line. A horse's drive line is right here at the shoulder. So if Ethan walks this way and shakes the bag, he's going to drive the horse this way. If he goes this way and shakes the bag, he's going to drive the horse this way. When you get in front of the shoulder, you stop a horse's movement from moving this way. If you get behind the shoulder, you can move the horse forward. So that's just a little tip in horsey people. So so he's over here just swinging his bag. He's not putting enough pressure on these horses, so he needs to get a little bit closer. So he looks like he's going directly for the head. The horse found relief by making an outside turn. He makes an outside turn by turning his butt to the inside towards Ethan, because he feels more pressure coming at him, because Ethan was kind of going towards his face. And this horse is going to run away and get relief of this pressure from this bag. And so he's chasing this horse, and the tail goes high, and the horse is trying to be big and say, hey, you're not going to catch me. You're not going to scare me with that bag. And so he's going to continue chasing the horse and putting pressure on the horse. So if this is what he wants, if he wants to tire the horse out so he can catch them, then he's going to continue to chase them around this round pen, or not really a round pen, this giant corral. He's going to chase them around the corral, so that way, chasing with his stick, so that way he could tire the horse out, so that way they'll be easier to be caught. Not the way I would do it, but he's just doing what he's been instructed to. So now this horse is totally ignoring it, because this horse is a smart horse. This one over here that has a halter on already. I don't really like halters being left on horses unless, they're being supervised. In this case, a horse can kick and get their foot caught in the halter. I guess not really. I mean, it would have to be a pretty small foot to get caught in the halter, but this horse can get it caught on the gate and fence and whatever, and the horse can hurt themselves. So they are supervised, so it's okay, but normally I don't like halters being left on horses. So he's chasing these two horses, and this one that's been hanging out with its little buddy over here is totally ignoring the other horses running. So this is a wise horse, either a smart horse, because they've been, they know. Let's go back a few paces to look at this cute little horse. This is the ranch lady right here who's instructing him on what to do. So this horse is either older or wiser or just a little bit lazier, and they say, you know what, you're not chasing me, you're not putting pressure on me, so I don't have to run. So I'm going to sit here and hang out with my buddy. Now I see here this type of metal enclosure. I like to, I mean, I'm not nitpicking everything, but I like to give a little bit of advice on things that I see when I see them. So if I see this is their shelter, but we see it is rusty, it is metal, it is not, you know, hopefully it's high enough so that way if they rear, they don't hit their head. I mean, it's a way to make a shelter, but I don't think it's necessarily the best kind of shelter. There's one way in and one way out. So one horse that is in there can block this shelter for every other horse that is out here. And if this is the one bit of shelter that they have, then that can be problems for the horses. That's not anything personal against anybody. That's just what I see. And everything I'm talking about here is nothing personal against Ethan. This is just, you know, again, this is something I saw him doing, and I thought I would explain it for the non-horsey people out there. So this horse is smart. These horses are like, okay, maybe they're younger. We're going to keep moving because you're putting pressure directly on us. So when one horse is running, chances are a lot of other horses are going to start running because they're herd animals. When they feel that the ground shaking because feet are moving, they're going to, he's got his whole setup here, of course. But they're going to try to chase each other. Well, not really chase each other. They're going to run with each other because they don't want to be the last one standing there and getting eaten by a predator. So they're moving. He's continuing to put pressure. When they get far enough away, they're going to stop and they're going to say, hey, you've put enough pressure on us. We feel comfortable over here because we can get away from that pressure. So because he chased this horse is now going to walk into him to say, hey, if I move into you, you're not going to chase me anymore. So that's one way to catch a horse, is to just chase them around in circles over and over and over again until you tire their butt out so much that they want to come into you, so that you know, they walk into you, so that way they don't have to continue running. Or you can calmly go over without having to chase them. If this horse was in the corner, then I would just walk over, make sure I'm in front of their drive line so they don't want to move forward. I don't want to, you know, corner them, but I would walk over gently. If they moved forward, then I would move in front of that drive line. I would stop them, and they would stop and face me, because that's what horses do when you cut them off at the drive line. A sign of respect is a horse will turn and face you. Like this horse is walking up to Ethan. He says, okay, don't chase me anymore. I'm a good boy, or a good girl. I'm a good horse. I'm not trying to, you know, cause any problems. I don't want you to chase me anymore, so I'm going to walk up to you. You could also just easily walk your way up to the horse, put a lead rope on, and do what you got to do with them. You don't have, what I'm saying is you don't have to chase the horse around. Again, that's just what he was instructed to do. So because he chased the horse comes in. Very respectful, very kind of drops their head a little bit, sniffs to see what his little microphone is over there, sniffing everybody. And because this horse already has a halter on, then I don't really necessarily like this kind of braiding, because it's a little bit more abrasive. I would like something with a little bit more padding. This is a rope halter, and I would like this little latch here to be tucked into the throat latch. I know a lot of people are going to say that I'm nitpicking here, but I'm very, very particular when I work with animals. That's what I do. You know, I work with horses, I work with dogs, I work with cats and ferrets and geckos and you name it. But mainly the common animals that I work with are horses and dogs, and also my cat Ellie. But he's going to be easier to catch because he already has his halter on. The other horse didn't come walking up to them because the other horse, either one, didn't have a halter on, didn't want to be caught, or two, this horse is already used to this. You know, he's used to being chased. And so he says, okay, I'm tired of being chased. I'm going to come in like a good horse. So that way you stop chasing me in this heat. So he's breathing heavy because he's been running a little bit. Gets a good little scratching. And they have him tied up to a tree because they're going to be doing some hoof work. They're going to be cutting his hooves. So they did tie this correctly. It's good to see that. But I would tuck this little latch inside of the throat latch, this little flap here, just so it's not flapping about, so it doesn't hit the horse in the eye. That's just a little extra thing that I might do. I'm very extra with animals. So now she's using, I think it's Pat Pirelli that does this. He's a horse person. You know, he's a horse trainer. I think Pat Pirelli is the one that teaches it. So she's teaching this horse to back up by wiggling the rope and putting, again, this is a form of pressure. The reason I don't like doing this is because I don't like to make, if I want to make a horse back up, I'll grab the halter, or I'll grab the lead rope by the halter, and I'll very gently lean my hand this way, putting pressure on the tip of the nose, and that'll get the horse to back up. And you can be very, very soft in doing that. You don't have to be loud by doing this with this motion with the rope. He's being very loud and putting a lot of pressure on the horse. I also don't like the clip that's on the rope, because I would prefer the rope to just be rope on rope versus the clip, because the metal clip, one, it's easy for it to break. And two, it's easy for someone to use when you're using this method here. You see how the clip is moving up and down? It's really easy for that to pop the horse under the chin. And a lot of people will do that. They will pop the horse under the chin. So she's telling him to move the horse's feet. He was already moving the horse's feet by chasing them with the flag. The horse came in very respectfully. I don't think you need to move his feet anymore. But she's telling him to back up. And now she's telling him to breathe and let that air out. And this horse is going to take a step in out of respect, you know, to say, okay, do you want me to come in now? You're breathing. Do you want me to come in? Although he didn't necessarily ask the horse to come in. The horse was just guessing here. So if you didn't want the horse to come in, then you would continue to keep them out by, shaking the rope again, or you could, again, back them up a little bit. You take a step back, and they don't come in until you tell them, okay, you give them a verbal cue, or you look away, or you turn your back and you say, okay, that means that's okay for you to come in on me. For horses, it's definitely a big thing about respect, coming into one space. So a horse doesn't come into another horse's space unless that horse says it's okay for you to. If another horse that just comes up into another horse's space, and this one says, act as if Ethan is a horse. And if he as a horse were to say, no, that's not okay for you to come into my space, he would pin his ears, which this horse has relaxed ears, they're not pinned, but he would pin his ears back, and he might nip or bite or turn his butt, or he would try to bite this horse and say, no, back off, I didn't tell you to come in. He might turn the butt and threaten the most powerful part of the horse. I mean, all of the horse is powerful, very powerful here at the mouth, but I think the most, where all this muscle comes from is where they can kick. And if they hit you with what they call both barrels, it hurts a lot. I know, because I've been kicked with both barrels before. So if he didn't want this horse to come in, then he could have told him so by either wiggling the rope or taking the rope, lean the horse back, or he could use his hands in a sweeping motion moving forward to say back up, to tell the horse to back up again until he asks the horse to come in. I mean, I don't care that the horse came in. I'm glad that he didn't care that the horse came in. He knows the horse doesn't necessarily really care to be around him. The horse is just trying to avoid pressure. The horse says, what do I need to do to keep you from chasing me with that flag again? Very respectful horse. Now here we have, he doesn't know that horses are claustrophobic. So snubbing up a horse like this, a lot of people that have horses and have had horses for years and years and years will still walk a horse like this. I don't walk a horse like this because, again, they're claustrophobic. They don't like you being right under their chin. Just like it's as if you have him by the collar or by his handkerchief. You're by the back of his neck. You're dragging him along, and every time you talk and you move him around with the, wherever the mouse is going is wherever he's going. So he should have his hand, if you were a horse person, he would have his hand right about here or right over here. She does have him holding, or unless he did his own research. I know he did his research on how to shoe a horse and do a little bit of farrier work. But she does have him holding the rope in a safe manner. It's not looped around his hand, which is good because we don't want it looped around the hand because it's a very dangerous way to hold a rope that's attached to a horse, because horses are flight animals. So if they take off right away, that loop is going to tighten up real quick and it'll take you with it. And or your hand, just your hand with it. And the rest of your body standing there while you're bleeding to death because your hand got ripped off, or your fingers got broken or ripped off, or your elbow or something else. So if you're a horse person, he's got his chaps on and everything else. If you're a horse person, then he would probably be holding it down here, giving the horse a little bit of space. So here we have Olivia with her little cowgirl hat, and she's just saying hello to the other horse that is now hanging out with them. She lifts up her hat and gives a very nice soft kiss. She goes back to give another kiss, kind of spooks the horse a little bit. The horse says, whoa, that was a little bit too much, a little too close to my face. And so he reacted a little bit. He or she reacted a little bit. No big deal. So now we have the horse. They have the horse tied up fairly short. I mean, I guess if you're going to be doing shoes, you don't want the horse to be moving around a whole lot. But if I tie up a horse, I like to tie them a little bit longer than that, or I like to teach them at least to be able to tie a little bit longer so that they're not like, tied right there, snubbed up, right under the chin, and they only have like a couple of feet to move. I want to make sure that they have a little bit of room to get comfortable, but that's just me. So she's talking about giving him a cookie. And then she's showing him how to lift up the foot of the horse and how to hold the foot. So I'm not a fan of shoes on horses unless you're going to be using them a lot. If you're going to be using your horse a lot, it's going to wear out their hoof, and then they do need shoes to protect the hoof. But I'm just not a fan of metal nails being nailed into a hoof, into the foot. I don't like, metal around. I don't like bits. I don't like spurs. I don't like any of that stuff around a horse. But this lady can do whatever she wants to do. It's her horses. So she's cleaning out the feet right here. And Ethan starts talking about, he knows that you got to trim off the triangular piece in the horse's hoof. So I think he's talking about the frog, which would be this part right here. Let me go back a minute to see if we can get a better view of the frog. So this triangular piece right here, I think, these are the bars, and this is the frog. This whole part is part of the horse's hoof that does need to be trimmed along with the outside rim of the foot. A horse's foot flexes and moves, and so that's why another reason why I don't like to see shoes on a horse, because it prevents that blood flow and that flexing of the foot. But he's talking about, I think, the bars and the frog. Of course, he's making some inappropriate comment. They're taking off the nails, and they shoe the horse, and they at least take off the hoof, and then he cleans it off a little bit. And then there was a pretty big rock stuck in there. So this right here is the frog. It's called the frog. So anyway, that's about it. That's just, he's just cleaning up the foot a little bit. He starts taking the horse off balance a little bit. He does a pretty good job though of keeping the horse in balance, as far as you can do when you're acting like a farrier for a horse. But here he starts to pull the foot up a little bit higher. It's really hard on the back. It's really hard to get comfortable when you're doing this. And so he starts to pull the foot up a little bit high, and he tips the horse off balance just a little bit here in a minute, and the horse takes a step. To try to counterbalance themselves. But, not the end of the world. I think he did a pretty good job. Clearly he seems to enjoy animals, and he loves animals, and he does a pretty darn good job while he's interacting with them. So that was just, something I saw that was interesting. I saw that he was talking about, he tried to tame a horse, and it went horribly wrong, and I just thought this would be a cute video to cover. So that's just, my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think of the video. Go say howdy do to your little critters. Say howdy do for me. Give them some kind of love and they appreciate it. Until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.